Good morning guys and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. If you're not, hopefully we can sort that out with this video. So I've very recently done a sort of maintenance video, and what am I doing with my hand? Just get out of the way. Very recently I've done a maintenance video on the angelfish tank behind me and then the reef tank as well there. But it's actually been a while since I've built something, isn't it? So let's do that today and let's get on with it. No faffing around, straight in. So this was once the cave aquarium, which is sat empty now for about a week. It's time to change that. So I said recently in one of my videos, we're going to make this like a guppy grow out breeding scapey thing. And I've got a really good idea for something I want to do for it. I'm going to make it super colourful. So I want like dark mossy woody background and then tons of colourful stem plants in the foreground and then a nice green carpet as well. I don't actually have any tanks in here. I'm looking around like I don't know. I've actually got no tanks in here that have got a full carpet of anything at the moment. Oh yeah, obviously I've got my little nano tanks at the top. Well, one of them, but that's it. That is the only thing. I want a big one. I've never actually done a big sort of successfully carpeted tank. So it's about time I did it. But the first thing we need to start off with is some substrate. And for that I'm using the usual Tropica aqua soil. It works really well. I use the fine grained stuff. Put it in on its own, it does everything you need. Oh, I've just remembered guys, I've still got 2 bags of this volcano mineral left, so I'm just going to put a little base layer of that down at the bottom before I put the aqua soil in. I mean, I've seen them do it on the ADA video, so it must be good, right? So I'm only going for a fine layer of the volcano mineral. Now this layer isn't actually essential, I'm just putting it in because I've seen other people do it on videos. But they must do it for a reason, right? So, okay, the main reason is going to be, it's going to add an extra layer of filter media, if you like, that's not in the filter. So that's the volcano mineral in. It's just basically like a porous stone with added minerals and nutrients and stuff. Extra beneficial bacteria will colonize it, which is great, but on top of it, we need to put our Tropica aqua soil. Obviously, with a breeding tank, the numbers of fish is going to increase as you go, which means that the media needed for the beneficial bacteria will also be needed to increase. Hopefully, we should be sorted in that area with all this volcano mineral underneath the aqua soil. So you can see here, I'm just pouring in the aqua soil. They look slightly different colours, but I think that's just because of moisture levels, so don't worry about that. And you can also see that I'm banking it up at the back, and that's to give it a better sense of depth. Stuff just looks good on angles. Right, so that's all that base layer in. It's about right, you know, I haven't done it perfect. I'm not going to spend hours and hours trying to get it perfectly straight because it doesn't really matter that much, does it? But I think that looks really good. I've kept it like about an inch at the front there. That side's slightly higher, but I'll sort that out, don't worry about that. But next, we need to put in our bit of wood that has all the moss on. Do you remember what I told you about this clump there? There's some wood under there somewhere. You have to get that out of there. I'm going to let it dry off outside before I put it in, because otherwise it's going to make a massive mess and all the moss is going to flop down, all that. But anyway, yeah, let's get it out. Get this light out of the way. This is just a really cheap light, by the way, guys, but it works a treat down here in this little plant vat of mine. How am I going to do this? Especially one-handed. Do you know what? I'm just going to put the camera down for a minute and do it. Oh my goodness, there's so much more moss there than I thought. Really healthy though, because it's not all been growing on top of itself, sort of thing. I don't even know, there's 2 bits of wood there, but they're completely, a bit of pinnacle feeder as well. I'll try and break it apart, then we can get it in the tank. So what I'm trying to do here is create a wall of moss in the background. I just think that the darkness with the moss, combined with the brightness in the guppies, would look absolutely brilliant in contrast to each other. And then when you see what I've got planned for the foreground coming up later on, you'll really know what I'm talking about. Now, as you can see, some of the moss on these sticks is really overgrown, but that's all right, you know. I'm planning to get a bit of breeding action going on, and little mossy areas like this are the perfect place for fry to just sort of chill out in. They'll feel a lot more comfortable in these shaded, mossy areas than out in the open to start with, but also give them the best chance for survival. Yeah, really liking that, guys. So basically what we've got there is 3 off-centre, well, slightly off-centre, the middle one, islands or mountains, if you like, of just moss. Like it looks a bit strange on its own, not gonna lie, but I've done that deliberately. There's loads and loads of space now for tons of planting. I want to add some little cute rounded pebbles as well. I think that'll look really nice. But then other than that, we're gonna go for a completely wild look. That's what I meant by the title of the video, which is Wild Guppy Aquarium. You know, I don't mean like the guppies are wild, I mean the whole tank's gonna be wild. I want to go for a completely cute, colourful little wild look, like just randomness, but in like a slightly controlled way, just in terms of colours and that. Oh, it's going to look so good. Let's just get it all in. So my wife has taken some of my pebbles from like my aquascaping store area and put them around the plants. No. I'm going to go and steal them. Where are they? There they are. No, I don't think so. Okay, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. I'll get some more in a bit. So these are some cool little rounded pebbles. Well, they're not little actually, they're quite big, aren't they? More like, well, they're not boulders either. They're somewhere in the middle, I guess. Anyway, they can be really hard to scape with if you're trying to create like a certain structure. But I find the best way to scape with them is just to be really random. So the look I'm trying to go for with the scape is just complete naturalness. I'm not going to try and follow any kind of rules at all. I just want it looking wild. Something about that look that I really like for my tanks. You don't see it that often, to be honest, like a wild look. You see like a jungle look. It's not quite like that. Jungle is quite a lot of big plants and covering tall areas. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more of a sort of randomness and colourful pop everywhere you look. It's actually really hard to describe what I'm talking about, but hopefully by the end of this, you'll know what I'm talking about. Right, there's all our detailed stones in. I know it might look a little bit odd at the moment, but that's going to change. Obviously, there's going to be plants in and amongst all of this. I'm going to go to town with the foreground plants, and then interspersed, good word, interspersed between them would be lots of little detailed stems and stuff, not thick pockets of them. I'm going for a wild, think of like a wild field, like wild flowers in a field. I'm going to go for that look inside this tank. That's what I want to do. I love that natural look and I want to try and recreate it here. So what I want to do now is just fill up the water level to like sort of like here, so that I can plant all the foreground plants. I've seen ADA do it that way. I've never done it that way. I want to give it a go. Normally I just plug them in dry. But I don't want to do that this time. God. So make sure that you're spraying down your plants. Often, guys, they dry up very quickly. We don't want that to happen. In fact, you'll be surprised. I've done it before where I've just walked away for 10 minutes, come back and everything's dry. Not the end of the world, but you need to be careful of it. So it's time now to fill up to that planting level of water. I find it best to lay some paper towel down first in the area that the water's going to be falling into. This should stop all the aqua soil being stirred up and just the whole tank looking a complete mess. Right, so there we've got all our moisture in the foreground. It's a little bit difficult because of the slope to get like the right balance between keeping the background area moist and then the foreground area as well. So you have to sort of flood it a little bit, but that's fine. So I've got a massive selection. I've got the loads of the 1-2 grow. We'll look at that in more detail in a minute. I've got some stuff I rescued from a nano tank that I found in the other studio, just sat there with no light, but I've got like some of this Liliopsis bruzilla and 𝐒𝐿𝐿𝐿. And then I've got a load of 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 mini dwarf hairgrass, some hydrocotyl in there. I've got a mix of loads of stuff, so we're not going to struggle to fill out that foreground area, and it should look insane. So to start with, I'm just going to get all those foreground plants out, and then we want to start adding more of the textured, taller stuff in the rockier sort of areas. I think that'll look really cool. So you can see here, I'm just splitting all the dwarf hairgrass into smaller portions. Originally, these were in a much more compact space, but I need to split them up so they can cover a wider area. These are really established pieces and they're really healthy as well, so I'm fortunate to be able to use them in the new scape. Splitting up the root system like this doesn't damage it at all, so don't worry about that. So all these established pieces that I've got are nice and tall, and for that reason I'm going to put them all around the rocks. They're growing really thick and look really like natural. You know, if you see like rocky outcrops anywhere, there's always a good amount of vegetation near it. That's the look I'm trying to create. And then in the wide open spaces we can keep our short hair grass and keep it trimmed nice and neat. Plus, combined with any other plants I'm going to put in and amongst it as well. So most of those plants that I had there went into the sort of detailed areas, as you can see around the rocky areas. Well, that's because it's a lot taller than the usual sort of 1-2 grow stuff you get, which is about this tall. In the hair grass specifically I'm talking about, it's about this tall. That stuff there was more like this tall. So I'll put it in the background because it's taller. That's what you should do. Just stick to the normal rules, obviously. Shortest plants at the front, tallest at the back. That's all we're doing, not doing anything magical here. And if you remember me saying as well that this is the first time I've actually done this kind of planting, if you like, where you sort of fill the water level just up to the aqua soil, and then you plug into that. It works a treat. I can see why ADA do it. I've never done it before, and I will be doing it forever in the future because the plant's just going perfectly. The root systems stay right at the base. When you pull up your tweezers, it doesn't pull up the plants with it at all. You don't get bits of soil flicking. Oh, it's just perfect. Thoroughly recommend. Right, so now I've got this Liliopsis here, and I've got the 𝐸 as well that I'm going to put in. So I'm going to take these out, prepare them as well, because they're all, that's completely joined together at the moment. They've all just been growing like a mat of it, if you like, in the previous tank. So you want to split it up into little sections and plug it all around our new tank. So both these plants propagate by sending out runners, and then along the runners are nodes. The node is where the new plant will sort of spur out from. If you break the plant along the runner, not the node obviously, just the runner, you've effectively now made far more plants than you had before. Each one of these new plants that you've made will now send out runners itself and then create even more plants. Isn't that amazing? I think it is anyway. So our next job is to sort out the Elaeocharis mini from the Tropica 1-2 grow range. Now these plants are grown in laboratory conditions in a nutrient gel or liquid. For this particular plant, they're grown in a liquid. It's quite simple really. You pour the liquid out, take the plant out, break it open, and then start splitting it up into smaller portions. Now a little tip for you, if you're going for a low-tech aquarium, I find it always works better if you keep the clumps a little bit bigger than usual so that each clump has got a bit better root system. I just find that I've had much better results this way. You'll see what I mean in a moment, but I always get people asking me how I get such good success with my hair grass, and I think this is why. So yeah, you can see here I'm breaking off quite decent sized clumps with my fingers and then rolling it between them to create these little planting tips, if you like. It's then just a case of plugging them into the aqua soil, making sure that you keep a decent space in between them in which it can all spread out and grow together. At some point in the near future, this will all be one big, awesome looking carpet. Next up is the Monte Carlo. We can prepare this in exactly the same way as the dwarf hairgrass, just breaking it apart into little portions and plugging them in the gaps. This is actually one of my favourite foreground plants. It creates these cute little leaves and it just looks great. So that is going to be it for this video, guys, but make sure you're subscribed, you've got the notification bells on for the next update, because we're going to be flooding the tank, adding all loads of detailed plants more to the foreground, loads of stems, all that interesting stuff. Also, I'm going to be showing you where I'm going to get the fish from. Obviously, due to restrictions at the moment, it's not going to be anywhere else other than in the house. I think many of you probably know already actually where I've got a collection of guppies, but I'll be showing you those. We'll be putting them in the tank, and then we can talk about also what sort of fish we're going to get out of this breeding program, because I don't actually know. I've got no special ones, I don't think, but I have got mixes of guppy types. I mean, I've got endless and I've got traditional guppies. I know that they can crossbreed, so that might be interesting. I mean, who knows what we're going to get? It's going to be like a sweet shop of guppies, to be honest. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully you are too. See you next time.